Hey guys, Tony here, and doing something a little different on my channel. I actually just got this information today. I actually just saw this information a few hours ago. I have not had a whole lot of time to go through this information, but if you're not aware, Billy Mitchell, he was all of his high scores were removed in 2018 from Twin Galaxies and also from Guinness World Records. And we're going to take a look at this. This is kind of Billy's counter argument that he has supplied. And there's a few things. I've looked through this a little bit. There's some things I will talk about. This is my initial response to this. And I thought I was done with Billy Mitchell. This topic, I guess not. That's all right. I guess when the news broke, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. What's up, Dante? What's up? Hey, Dad. Let's play. Yeah, and I'm going live, so I'm not editing. This is not gonna be a fully edited video. I looked at this document, and with me covering the Sega Genesis Mini, there's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough hours in the day for me to talk about this topic and to edit and look at it fully. Eventually I will, and I will share my full thoughts. So this was submitted by Billy Mitchell, and this is actually like on a Google Docs. I can't exactly share where I got it from, but yes. So there's a lot of information here from Billy. Here, I'm not going to go through every little aspect. I'm not going to tear apart every little aspect of this. This is kind of my initial thoughts on this. This is my initial thoughts on what he is presenting. And there's some historical stuff here. There's some technical stuff here. I am not an arcade guru, if you will. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of hardware, but I know enough to be dangerous. So we'll look at what Billy has to say. We'll talk about this tape, Twin Galaxy tapes, justification here, and all that he has presented here. Again, this is kind of crazy, but there's a lot of signed statements in this document, and yeah, this is insane. Some of it I'll just let you guys digest yourself. I will read this introduction. The following is the Billy Mitchell evidence package, which accompanies the official request for retraction of the claims made by Guinness World Records and Twin Galaxies. It is highly recommended for both corporations to review the request for retraction letter and the testimonial letter from Walter Day. I'll read that prior to looking at the evidence package. This package consists of sections, some sections consisting of several parts, while others do not. Now, he's basically saying here that, some of the screenshots did not transfer well to Google Drive, and, yeah. So this score right here was not a score submission. So this is the first thing they want to kind of dispute. This was the very famous scene in King of Kong when he had the quote-unquote mystery tape, the quote-unquote hidden weapon. And basically it tells you what's going on here with the story. And kind of making some definitions here with the scores that are in question and the one that he is actually talking about the most. So I'll read this little paragraph here. In 2005 at Fun Spot Arcade, Billy Mitchell allowed Brian Koo to showcase a video of his that score performance. This event was documented in the movie King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. However, the movie left out the important information involving the score's unveiling. Because of this information debunked the production team's narrative. Among the omitted footage was a disclaimer from Brian, who stated, "This is not a score submission. This is for entertainment purposes." In other words, this score was not a Twin Galaxies submission. This occurrence is further backed by witnesses and actual films still in our possession. Following the score's unveiling, the movie shows Walter Day submitting the score into the database. However, this was only acting done for the movie, and the scoreboard shown by the movie was forged. Actually, this is very obvious because the movie has errors. For example, in the scene where Day submits the score, he enters the wrong score. Day enters that score, which we'll look at the pictures here in a second. Following the scene, the movie shows a fake scoreboard that says the following. So here's the screenshots from the King of Kong when he actually puts in the wrong score. And Steve Wiebe, Billy Mitchell, and this is supposed to be when Walter updated the scoreboard. So basically saying that this was not an official submission. This was not an actual submission on Twin Galaxies. And this particular tape was in dispute. Also admits that other scores such as Tim Jackson's score and Jeffrey Brandt's score. Furthermore, Twin Galaxy scoreboard only shows a player's highest submitted score. Therefore, Billy Mitchell's, that score he scored in the 80s, shouldn't be displayed, only a new highest score. Actually, Mitchell submitted a score between that score and that score, achievement, and the unveiling here. This score isn't displayed in the movie either. So that was all theatrics. Let's see here. Let's move on. So in other words, just trying to say that what is actually shown in the movie is not factual, and that was not a submission. And Walter Day is acting in the movie, just basically submitting that into the role. Figure 6 is Twin Galaxy Dispute Thread, post 1467. And this is basically disputing that the tape itself that was in question in King of Kong, that's what that submission is all about, that thread post. Okay, it says here, Mitchell places a high value on live public gameplay because that was the standard of the 80s. Mitchell has never submitted a score via videotape or submitted a live score without proper whatever. This is easily proven by the submission history, as every score he submitted occurred live in a public venue. Moreover, it is also powerful to see other world records that Billy never submitted because he doesn't submit records via videotape. For example, in May 2003, Mitchell achieved a Donkey Kong score of that amount at Robert Child's Arcade. This score, which was never submitted, was only shown to friends, such as Brian, for entertainment purposes. Although the video was lost by Twin Galaxies, the existence of it is thoroughly documented. February 2010, Mitchell achieved a Pac-Man score of that amount, which was also a world record. Although Mitchell had credible witnesses, he never submitted the score because it was not done in a public venue. Interesting. What's up, Sean the Great Gamer? How you doing? What's up, Charlie Brown? So here's a summary of what they're saying about this particular score. This is Billy's camp, by the way. Jace Hall and Twin Galaxies leaned on the King of Kong movie as historically accurate information, while also conceding to it to be a docudrama and not even really a documentary. Billy Mitchell only submits scores live. He has never submitted a score via videotape. All videotapes were made strictly for archival purposes. The King of Kong movie totally falsifies the narrative that Mitchell submits that performance. This is proven in 3 ways. And you had those testimonies there. And then Robert here, he's the only person that contends the score was submitted, has conflicting testimony, and doesn't tell a straight story. His story about Mitchell shipping his tape is falsified, and we're willing to subpoena shipped records should he say it not. Interesting. Awesome, Shane. Yeah, I've met both of them as well. I just met up with Walter at Missouri GameCon 4 back in August. So they're basically saying that you're using the tape, you're looking at the tape that was on King of Kong. You can't use that because it wasn't an official submission. Okay, great. So here's some Facebook messages and saying that Jace Hall is saying King of Kong was documentation. And again, I'm just reading this. I'm kind of digesting it with you guys a little bit. And just kind of reading through some of this. I looked through it a little bit. And kind of pointing out some of the highlights that I see. So, William Billy Mitchell statement. This is him basically saying, talking about the documentation of the King of Kong, like what actually happened. Any documentation in the King of Kong, such as the scene where I hand off Doris Self a VHS tape, is inaccurate. Actually, in the King of Kong movie, the tape I hand Doris Sell is a WWE wrestling tape. It would have been WWF at that time, I believe. And not his performance. So he was kind of played up. Oh, that's awesome, Sean. The movie's portrayal that I submitted, this performance is fictitious. It omits all the evidence. Yada, yada, yada. During the Twin Galaxies investigation in early March, I explained to Jace Hall that I never submitted that score. Hall responded by citing the King of Kong movie as proof to the contrary, stating that there was half a dozen referees in the cabin verifying the tape that night. Hall rejected my offer to provide this evidence, saying, "You benefit from it." In other words, Hall conceded that I was correct, but he didn't care and that he would attack me regardless. Hall wouldn't even take testimony from Walter Day, the previous Twin Galaxy owner. So there's Billy's statement. There's a lot of these, and it says, I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California and Florida, the following is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. There's Billy's statement there. Pretty interesting. Tape validity. So this is talking about Twin Galaxy tape justification. The following parts walk through Twin Galaxy's justification. So here's Billy. This is Billy Mitchell, his son. Okay, I believe. Billy Mitchell Jr. And this is actually a Facebook thread. So they're actually using Facebook threads in this official document. That's kind of funny. Oh, thanks, Retro Christian, and congratulations, bud. So, Figure 1, Jace Hall provides his reasoning for the claim that the tapes are Billy Mitchell's performances. Duplicate set of digital tapes from former Twin Galaxies associate. This Greg character says that this is independent of the set provided by Dwayne Richard. King of Kong movie, side-by-side comparison, emails, referee testimonial. Digital copies, King of Kong. There's also emails. There's referees in here talking about that. Walter Day's email confirming that he has never distributed digital copies of anything. and has only worked with VHS tapes, disqualifying him as a source of these performances at the time of the statement. Day was out of the country and will sign a statement upon his return. Evidence of tampering. So the following part reviews that the evidence that Billy Mitchell's tapes have a high probability of being tampered with. The part will begin with confirming Twin Galaxies' source for Billy Mitchell's performances. So they're going to talk about where are they actually getting these particular tapes from, where are they getting the actual footage from, that kind of thing. So let's see here. For over a decade, Twin Galaxies lost the chain of custody of all Billy Mitchell's performances, not just Donkey Kong. Moreover, they lost custody to Dwayne Richard, who is the former owner of a website called I'm Not Gonna Read That, and and has a track record of taking actions to hurt Billy Mitchell. For example, Richard spent hundreds of thousands to make the YouTube videos The King of Con, The Perfect Fraud Man. All of these movies create falsified information and attempt to derail and defame Mitchell's achievement and legacy. The source's open disdain for Billy Mitchell is very concerning. However, this was ignored by Twin Galaxies. In the words of Jace Hall, I stated this previously, but you may have missed it. Dwayne Richards sent the tapes. They did not come from Billy Mitchell. So they're saying that Dwayne Richard might have doctored the tapes. So here's some more evidence with that. The evidence of tampering. So this is saying that Dwayne Richard tampered with it. All right, hey Dad, that's cool. So the following two emails are from Dwayne Richard to Robert Childs. In the following emails, Richard speaks of a few things. Looking for help for knowledgeable technicians to make a score on D Kong. Saying he is learning how to modify boards. Saying he has a master plan to take Billy down. That there is. So much on him. He'll be finished. You won't believe what's going to happen to him. So this is Dwayne to Robert Childs, 2009. That's that email. Dwayne Richard to Robert Childs on Sunday, November 6, 2011. So if he's saying, he got these emails from Robert Childs, so that's kind of interesting. Another piece of evidence that Dwayne Richard has personally asked two separate witnesses to help in faking a MAME tape. One of these witnesses has provided testimony while the other, Richard's friend Rick, has refused. The witness of Richard, also known as Richie Knuckles, here's his testimony. Ooh, Richie Knuckles. This is going to be interesting. And it's upside down. Here's the funny thing. I can read upside down pretty well. Richie Knuckles, Richie, a.k.a. Richie Knuckles, attests to the following. In 2009, in Lasonia, New Hampshire, at the location of Fun Spot, Dwayne Richard proposed a plan to fake a MAME score technically so as to put egg on the face of Twin Galaxy. That evening, the idea was laughed off by the dinner group in attendance as a funny joke. Shortly after, Dwayne Richards contacted me by phone. And if I'm reading this kind of funny, sorry. He reiterated his request for technical assistance. He expressed the seriousness of his desire to embarrass Twin Galaxies. I decided to be any part of a fraud as I realized he was serious. I find the current accusation of Mitchell too close to exactly what Richard planned in 2019 to be overlooked. The coincidences are far too close to be a coincidence, and the fact that he expressed his desires twice, once at dinner and once over the phone, showed his high-level desire to make it happen. It may be 8 years later, but the specifics are almost exactly the same. Early 2018, Jay Saul contacted me to acquire copies of a certain tape, as his only current source was Dwayne Richards. I acquired another tape from former Twin Galaxies referee Greg. However, Greg expressed serious doubts over the tape's origins and noted he could have received these DVDs from Richard. I informed Hall of this in advance. However, this information did not seem to concern him. I declare under the penalty of perjury upon the laws in the states of California, New Jersey, blah, 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 that truthful. Okay, so Richie Knuckles, there's a statement from him. Pretty interesting. Beyond the evidence provided, there is forensic evidence that these performances have been tampered with. YouTube uploads. So I have seen these. I've watched these actually. When the whole scandal went down, when the whole thing was going to go down, I actually referred to these tapes and watched these particular tapes. So these videos are the first known appearances of the tapes since they disappeared into Dwayne Richards' possession in 2009. This screenshot shows the video in its description, which clearly states that the video was originally uploaded by Dwayne Richard. Interesting. It also makes it clear upon its upload it was in parts. In other words, it had been edited. Moreover, even what Jeremy Young posted to the Twin Galaxies dispute thread was uploaded in parts. So they're saying that it had to have been in parts. It had to have been doctored. It had to have been messed with. That's what he's saying. And I'm trying to decipher with you guys. How long does it take to beat Donkey Kong? A long time. So here's some more video footage. Jeremy Young posting the videos in parts. Talking about the borders. There are only two possible solutions for this. First is if these copies have been through a digital editor. Moreover, there are digital copies of this performance and no particular reason that the tapes have been digitized. Second, this could originated from a computer as a part of the recording process. So basically saying that this was like not legit. Pie Factory, tampering error. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. The girder finger. You guys can read this. I'm actually going to put this link in the description below for you guys. And it's free access to what I understand and what I've seen. So it's free knowledge. You guys can check it out on your own if you want to read through some of this stuff and some of the like really, really specific things. But Jace Hall's conflicting testimony. Throughout the dispute process, Hall made conflicting statements regarding the veracity of, or should be validity, when Jace Hall posted the digital copies of the alleged Billy Mitchell performances. He stated the following, in which he called the footage a liability. So this is what he said. People should not repost the videos because it may create future liability for them. So it is best that this content stays within the walls of TG, Twin Galaxies. Furthermore, throughout the dispute, Hall maintained that although he did not have the original tape, Billy Mitchell's performance, he did retain copies of them. However, Hall has also stated the following. You cannot determine from that data. The master tape can look exactly like the digital copy, noise and all. There is no way to know that Dwayne and Greg's versions came from a copy of the original performance. Regardless of that, what we do know is that the source was the tape that was submitted to Twin Galaxies, which is all that matters. So there is no way to know that Greg or Dwayne and Greg's versions came from a copy of the original performance. There's no way to, he's saying there's no way to find that out. There's no proof. Moreover, the claim, regardless of that, what we do know is that the source, the tape from the tape that was submitted to TG, which is all that matters. Billy Mitchell has never submitted a score via tape, This is supported by testimonies from Walter Day, Todd Rogers, wow, and Billy Mitchell. Mitchell's records were done live and submitted via live, not videotape, as claimed by Hall. Refusal to cooperate. After Twin Galaxies and Guinness World Record statements, expert witnesses of David Race requested Jace Hall allow him to inspect the questioned VHS tapes. Hall refused the request. Race then questioned to Hall that he be sent frame perfect copies of the VHS tape. Hall even refused this request as well. Hall's refusal to allow someone not biased against Mitchell to inspect the questionable VHS tapes should be viewed with extreme skepticism. Hall deliberately deprives anyone not biased against Mitchell to review these questioned tapes. So here's some witness statements. Yeah, Todd Roger. So here's one by the Cellini. I think that's how you said it, Enzio. I don't know who this particular person is, but it says that he's been in the video game operation since 1983. Local distributor in South Florida area. July 2010, I asked to provide a Donkey Kong machine for a high score event at Boomers. The machine I had available was owned by myself and had been in both my distribution warehouse and in my home for quite some time. I never by law or contract deal with anyone other than authentic hardware from games or game manufacturing. So basically trying to say that there's no MAME involved. That's what he's trying to say. Matt Frugal picked up Donkey Kong machine, saying basically not tampered with. And there's another statement from him that was done in April of this year. Here's this Matt Fergal. I don't know how to say that. I'm terrible with names, guys. I'm sorry. Fergal, I guess that's how you'd say it. He is basically saying here that he has worked in the video game industry for 20 years. And he does pick up and delivery here. And he's trying to say that the Donkey Kong cabinet that he used at the 2010 event, just kind of summarizing for you guys a little bit, because there's a lot to get through here, that it was legit hardware. That's what he's trying to say. During a visit in the late afternoon, I witnessed the final stages of the Donkey Kong high score. Following the conclusion of the world record game, celebrations, handshakes, hugs, and congratulations ensued, which I remember well. After the event, I picked up the machine from Boomers, and the machine was as I delivered it as. So basically, not messed with, not tampered with. There's another statement. This Joe character, he's a manager at Boomers. Probably more of the same there. Jack Becker, another statement about that. So there's a lot of these statements in this document. 41. We're on 41 and 156. So here's another one. I was a member of the Twin Galaxies staff for years, including 2010. At the event, Twin Galaxies personnel had in their possession gameplay tapes of an event the week prior to Billy's performances on the Donkey Kong Jr. Many referees and personnel, including Twin Galaxies owner Pete B., all seemed very comfortable with this decision, and no one expressed any reservation. They were told that we could watch it for our own purposes or entertainment at a future time desired. Okay. What's up, Extreme Vintage? How you doing? Here's Robert Childs. He's the owner of that arcade. So in 2003, talking about the Donkey Kong arcade machine. And let's see what he says in 2010. In 2010, I helped Billy Mitchell set up and organize a Donkey Kong world record attempt at Boomer's Arcade because Billy Mitchell would only perform world records in public venues. The machine for this event was provided by Enzio Brady Distributing. Enzio is only licensed to work with authentic arcade hardware and his reputation. So more the same with that authentication of basically it's not MAME. That's what they're trying to say here. Very excited, Christian. I'm very excited for the Mini. Later on, I wanted to create a video of myself changing the game boards, hoping to get publicity for my YouTube channel. So, yeah. So there's more of the same here. Mitchell's statement. So this is his statement talking about basically not messing with all of the original hardware. I do not remember all the present parties at the moment I achieved the score. However, I know Todd Rogers was there. Oh boy. Billy freaking Mitchell indeed. Extreme vintage. So there's more information about basically who provided the original hardware. After the performances, Robert Childs wanted to create a video swapping game boards to get views for his YouTube channel. As his friend, I wanted to help him and complied with his request. This board swap video was his video and only for his use. I never used this video to support my scores and did not submit it to Twin Galaxies as evidence. I have never spoken of it to provide support of my scores. The video was not uploaded to YouTube by me. Claims that I used this video to provide support or credibility of my score are objectively false and have no evidence to support them. They are an attempt to divert focus from more important topics. This video occurred long after the end of my performances and the recording equipment has been packed up. Bubby equals Billy. Okay. So witness statements. Here's another thing. There's a lot to get through here. So this Sheila person. Trying to summarize for you guys. At the end of the weekend, the GameStop manager returned, opened the cabinet, removed the game board, and I had responsibility of shipping the board back to Nintendo. Where I was told they would recertify its authenticity. The installation and removal of the board was all videotaped and mailed to Twin Galaxies. So they tried to document this. I would like to see that tape. I am still an active member of FMBA, and many of the members I worked with are still active members now. And all this information is very available, very public, quite memorable. Okay. And there's her testimony. There's her signed statement. Here's this guy again. That's Robert Childs' guy. He says, however, I had no idea how malicious this deceptive investigation would become. Ultimately, the information I provided was twisted, and to Robert Childs set up the recording. He knows 100% that the setup was and the exact equipment used. None of those claims were true at all. All claim this made by Twin Galaxies or any other entity is nothing but an assumption. I was not involved with the scores analyzed by Twin Galaxies. I only had some involvement with that score. The small knowledge I provide was given in good faith because we were innocent of wrongdoing, but the malicious people involved made assumptions and twisted my words. If I could have foreseen their actions, I would not have provided this information. Interesting. Some more Billy Mitchell statements. And kind of more of the same here. Just talking about like what happened after the event, after that particular time. During the Twin Galaxies investigation, Jace Hall was made aware of all the events noted in this statement, and the witnesses were made available to him. In Hall's words, he didn't care, and it didn't matter. Hall made it clear that he would not even hear what the witnesses had to say. He said he was an engineer, knew more about this than anybody, had better equipment than anybody, and there was nothing anyone could teach him. These opinions, statements, and attitudes grew stronger as time went on. Eventually, it became clear that no evidence would stop him from his goal of removing my scores and basically a public, extravagant fashion. There's Billy. Wow, there's a lot of these to read through. A lot of them kind of say the same things over and over again. And Todd Rogers' name is all over this. So basically just trying to have witnesses, trying to have people back him up. That's what's going on here. Wow, that was pretty recent. Oh, here's the first Todd Rogers testimony statement. So let's see what he says. This was an original Nintendo Donkey Kong machine as I have known since 1981. The gameplay was recorded via direct feed in an effort to create a high quality viewing experience. The machine was padlocked throughout the entire performance and remained so after we left the venue. After the event, I was told that the manager of the local GameStop would be stopping by to unlock the back of the game and retrieve the game board for further inspection by Nintendo. Verification of the gameplay was one of probably hundreds that I have done or been a part of. I continued in my position with Twin Galaxies until approximately 2012 when the company changed hands. Yeah, Dante, this sounds like a big setup for King of Kong 2. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of this. And there's a lot of these statements and stuff. And it's a lot to go through. Like, we're on 55. We're not even, halfway there yet. I'm not going to go through every single little document, but I'm just kind of reading through with you guys. Alright, so witness statements, more witness statements. Let's see, I'm going to skip that one. So, the event was another occurrence of Jay Saul selectively choosing what evidence he'll consider admissible and what evidence will not be. Another Robert Childs statement. Perfect Pac-Man evidence. Okay, this is kind of what I wanted to get to a little bit. Okay, the following section contains the evidence regarding Billy Mitchell's perfect Pac-Man score. This section is divided into two parts. Part 1 begins with the evidence in defense of the score, which includes witness statements and media articles. One article is FunSpot's own article, written after the completion of Billy Mitchell's achievement in 1999. Another, written in 2008, provides information about the score and has Bally Midway's own spokesperson saying Mitchell was the first person to achieve it. So, when they removed his scores, they removed this perfect score. And he was the first person to do the perfect score on Pac-Man. And that's one big qualm I kind of had when all this went down, is that did get removed. Okay, that was a legit score. That was a legit record. And I kind of have a problem with that. Okay, that's one thing that I kind of stood up for Billy about, because that was a great achievement, and it deserves to be recognized and not removed, not erased from history, so to speak. And I mean, I even remember seeing Billy Mitchell's picture in my yearbook when I was in 8th grade. There was a little like year by year thing in our yearbook, like what happened in 1999 kind of thing. And Billy Mitchell's picture was in there. And it was talking about the perfect Pac-Man score. I couldn't believe it. And that was the first time I had exposure to Billy Mitchell, is when I was in 8th grade. So there's a little side story for you guys. And yeah, so it says here, Part 2 contains the defamation Guinness World Records and Twin Galaxy has caused to Billy Mitchell. So, Variety Magazine, I've actually read that one in their quarter-page publication in the 2009 Gamer Edition book. I've read that. I've looked at it. So they're basically saying like it's defamatory print. And yeah. So let's get into defending the score. Ken Sweet. So he worked in the gaming industry in the 90s. I don't know who this particular person is, but he performed in journalistic activities such as press releases and interviews. I was also a Twin Galaxies employee. The majority of the time was spent at FunSpot in New Hampshire as a manager. So he was manager of FunSpot. It says he personally set up a lot of the games and ensured that they were on the correct settings. Summer 1999, a number of players traveled to play a tournament setting in efforts to achieve a perfect score on Pac-Man. An announcement came that Billy Mitchell would be traveling to FunSpot on the 4th of July weekend and that he would achieve a perfect score on Pac-Man. Billy contacted us at FunSpot, asking us to check the quality of the controls on Pac-Man. We did exactly that, and once again verified that the Pac-Man cabinet had original hardware and was on tournament settings. Other players had attempted this before, and after Billy, none were so cautious and particular, as FunSpot was well known for being meticulous with their details. The game was in a secured area to protect Billy from the crowd, and was videotaped on a tripod over Billy's shoulder, along with the present referees, media, and hundreds of witnesses, as this was the busiest weekend of the year in the world's largest arcade. As I stated before, following the 4th of July weekend, the players continued to travel to FunSpot after Billy's performance, continuing their own quest for a perfect score as well. Those players achieved their perfect scores on the exact same machines, with the exact same settings, and with the exact same observation and verification. Nothing that happened on that Pac-Man machine could ever be brought into question, and none of those world record attempts, as we are speaking of thousands, could ever be questioned either. All these scores, all these games, face the same integrity and the same scrutiny. I would be insulted if Billy was held or questioned in a manner that hundreds were not, because I participated in mostly all of them. And this is a false attack on my character as well. So he's basically saying that, if Billy achieved this score here, then we need to get rid of all the other scores that were attempted or kept track of at FunSpot. FunSpot is probably the most world-renowned arcade in the entire world, in my opinion, especially when it comes to the 90s and early thousands. And when you think of early record keeping, early, breaking world records, you think of FunSpot. So that's interesting to read that. And that was in April 2019. So again, here's floor manager reading. I kind of want to get to the documents and the pictures. I've actually looked at them a little bit. Here's another one, technician. He worked at FunSpot, kind of saying the same thing about Pac-Man that the manager did. Here's this Chris character here. And he was there with the testimony. And you can actually find this article. This is FunSpot's press release. You can click on the link. I'm not going to click on it here. Just out of safety, I don't want to lose the screen. It took me a little while to actually get this up and going, but this is the web page. This is that day, and their press release. Wired.com's article, 2008. Here it is, covering that time. Another press release. Weir's Times. That's the photo I remember the most, seeing Billy. Official Pac-Man Museum. So this is Bandai Namco. And where the heck is it? Chicago, Illinois. So it's in Chicago, Illinois. And here's that plaque. To win the game's maximum score, Mitchell navigated all 256 screens and ate every single dot, blinking energizing blob, flashing blue ghosts, and point-loaded fruit without losing a single life. Bravo, Mr. Mitchell. So here's Billy Mitchell. He said, I gained the knowledge and ability to execute a perfect Pac-Man score in 1983. I shared this knowledge with my best friend Chris and Walter Day alone. I first achieved Pac-Man world record at Twin Galaxies Walter Day tournament in 1984. In 1999, my friend Chris and I became aware of the two Canadians who gained the knowledge to perform a perfect Pac-Man. At that moment, the race for the perfect Pac-Man began. May 1999, having not playing for years and facing new competition, I traveled to a tournament hosted by Fun Spot, Walter Day in New Hampshire. This gathering, I failed in my attempt to score a perfect Pac-Man. However, this Rick character achieved a new world record, which was only 90 points short of the perfect score. I practiced approximately 6 weeks and made a public appearance or announcement that I would be traveling back to Fun Spot on the 4th of July weekend. In this announcement, I promised a perfect score. He got a hotel room. Great. Shortly after, he also assisted by the exact same staff and management. So saying like his score was verified by other people at Fun Spot. There's Billy's statement. Okay. Corey Sawyer. So he's saying he witnessed Billy play. Recklessness and its effects. Recklessness. Lack of care for the truth. Guinness World Record. Reckless acts regarding the dissemination of information in Billy Mitchell's controversy has libeled his entire career. So they're saying that they've committed the act of libel. The worst cases are their spokesperson's words to Variety magazine and their fictitious quarter-page assertions in their official 2019 Gamers Edition book. Both items are located on the following 2 pages. First, I'll break down the Variety. We're going to just skip down to it. Billy Mitchell never submitted a Zaxxon score. Lastly, I'll summarize the points this document covered. We're going to skip down to the article. So here's the article. So Guinness World Records quarter-page statement. So this is when they're basically saying that, Twin Galaxies repeated the act by stripping Billy Mitchell of all of his records. These included 2 active Guinness World Records, the highest score on Pac-Man and the first perfect score on Pac-Man. Twin Galaxy members Jeremy Young was able to prove that Mitchell's submitted scores were obtained while using MAME, and something that was forbidden against Twin Galaxy rules. My gut reaction to this, Dante, that's a good question. I'm very mixed about it. I mean, Billy's making a decent case. This is really well thought out and really well planned. There's a lot here to see. And see you, Christian. So there's a lot to digest here as well, but he's making a point against every single thing that was said against him and all the claims that were said against him. Pretty interesting to see this stuff all kind of in order. And then also right here, saying that basically after Guinness did this Gamers Edition book and the articles that on YouTube channels, I've actually read this little blurb earlier today, but basically after Guinness did this, there were channels that covered Billy's perfect scores, and they're going in there and basically saying that he's a cheater. Okay, like I'll zoom in a little bit. Like, meet the man who beat How to Pretend to Beat Pac-Man. Should he be retitled to the man who cheated Pac-Man? Billy is a notorious liar and fraud. So, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I've had numerous comments on my channel. Anytime I post a Billy Mitchell video, people will comment, that cheater. Look at him. He's a cheater. And, I mean, I don't really comment on those. I don't comment back on them. I mean, I have my own opinion. I just want to present the information, really. And here's some more information about him being, because of what Twin Galaxies did and what Guinness did. Basically, the things that were said about him on YouTube are not true, or he's being harassed, or whatever you want to say it. So, evidence. 1980 score evidence. So this is Steve Saunders. Oh man, this is crazy. So this is official affidavit, May 13th, 2019, to Evelyn Mitchell. That's Billy Mitchell's wife. So this is him talking about the original score in 1982, I believe, when Billy achieved the high score here. Okay, this high score. Isn't it proved he cheated using MAME and said he used a real arcade? So Brian, actually this is Billy's evidence. This is all Billy's evidence that he's presenting and trying to say that, he was framed or whatever, or singled out, or the tapes were doctored by someone else other than himself. And I'm just kind of going through the evidence. This is Steve Saunders' statement. Not much here. I don't really want to. This is kind of old news. But this is basically saying that Billy was able to perform in the 80s. Here's Walter Day. This is the one I wanted to get to the most. So I'm gonna read this. I met Billy Mitchell in 1982. The first Twin Galaxies event Billy participated in was in November of 1982. Billy achieved many world records at Twin Galaxy sanction live events. These events were officiated by me or by members of my staff who executed their duties under my direction. In the early days, world records were not forwarded to Guinness, were required to be done live at Twin Galaxy events. Throughout the years, Twin Galaxy staff and I observed Billy Mitchell achieve a tremendous amount of world record caliber performances on games such as Donkey Kong Jr., Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man, Burger Time, and Centipede, to name a few. These performances were done at Twin Galaxies Arcade in Ottumwa, Iowa. I've been there. At various trade shows and tournament locations throughout North America. During Billy's performances, which were supervised by me or Twin Galaxy staff, Billy only played on original arcade hardware. All the performances recognized and accredited to Billy were always achieved at live events in front of fellow competitors, Twin Galaxy associates, and quite often the media. Billy's eyewitness testimony of competitive gaming performances were always regarded by everyone in the industry as among the most reputable in esports. I declare under penalty. So yeah, that's him just saying it's the truth. So that was July 24, 2019. So here's this Chris character again, talking about when he met Billy and talking about more testimonials here. Okay, gameplay analysis. Description. Okay, so the following section can be found on this Google document. In summary, the 82-page summary analysis dives into the gameplay of Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong performances in an attempt to the claims that Billy used save states or spliced a tape to cheat. Ultimately, the analysis proved, after exhausting all measurable angles, that the gameplay on Billy Mitchell's alleged tapes is parallel to authentic Donkey Kong gameplay. The conclusions of this analysis and that of expert witness Robbie Lakeman prove that there's no motive for Billy to have done what Twin Galaxy and Guinness World Records claim. Okay, so furthermore, the analysis surfaces serious issues with the honesty and recklessness shown by Twin Galaxies. Lastly, brought in expert witness Robbie Lakeman, 8-time world record holder and 2-time winner of the Donkey Kong World Championships, who is in his own independent investigation came to the equivalent conclusions. Expert analysis. In addition to my own analysis, we hired expert witness Robert Lakeman to perform independent analysis. Okay, this is what Lakeman said in summary. After reviewing Billy's gameplay and the reproducing similar games myself, I can honestly say that this is legitimate gameplay. I base this off of what I was able to create myself in such a short amount of time and watching Billy play live at the Donkey Kong World Championships. I can attest that these tapes are Billy's playing and that I do not see a reason why Billy would need to even use MAME or save states to film both games with the state or style of play. So this is Lakeman's full report. You guys can read this on your own. I will leave the link down in the description below. Excessive luck. The next argument I analyzed was the astronomical luck. I will read this little section. The Donkey Kong forum community pointed out that in Billy's game, they analyzed how many points from blue smashes Billy totaled compared to the rest of the score. They also counted how many blue smashes on each screen and his total average per blue smash. Since Billy was specifically going for blue smashes, I decided to see if I could once again replicate his gameplay at Fun Spot. This is what I found out in a few hours. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I tallied up all the blue smashes and compared to the number that were on the Donkey Kong forum in the dispute thread. I had a total of 356 blue smashes. Billy had 380, according to the Donkey Kong forum. Since this was my second credit, I'm positive I would have been able to match those smashes with more attempts. So he's saying that it could basically be replicated. Based on my findings with the 5 total credits of gameplay, I have found that Billy's excessive luck was not excessive at all. 2 of these 5 credits were near reproductions of both Billy's scores. Billy's suspicious gameplay and reckless strategies did not seem to go against me in such a small time frame. This is based on the fact that Billy understood how to use these strategies and knowledge of fireball behavior. All I had to do was closely study his gameplay and use my knowledge to reproduce his strategies based on what the fireballs were doing. Billy had been playing the game for 20 years during these games, and I had started figuring out some of his knowledge after playing for 7 years. I'm not going to read the rest of that, but Robert Lakeman, he is legit, he is one of Billy's friends, I will say that. A lot of these people that are on here are all Billy's friends for the most part, but it's also interesting to get like the managers or the owners of these arcades in here. That's pretty interesting. I agree with that, Dante. So William Mitchell. Okay, let's read this statement. As I, nor anyone close to me, has done any research on his accusation, I refused to provide comment to avoid giving Hall the opportunity to weaponize my words against me later on. Hall continued to bring this subject up throughout the dispute and attempted to coerce me for an answer so he could work against whatever position I provided, as he did with any other information that was given. Nintendo hardware certification. So this is kind of where it's going to get a little dicey for me because I'm not an expert with the whole arcade hardware, but we're gonna take a look at it anyway and see if there's anything interesting here. So this is basically, I looked at this earlier. This is how the hardware and everything was handed off for Billy in 2010 or 2007. In January 2007, Billy accepted a paid appearance opportunity with the Florida Association with Mortgage Brokers. So he's going to try to do a world record attempt here. And he's saying that he went through like an official chain of command to get certification on the board. Okay. As seen in the flowchart, the hardware, the PCB, was never in Billy's possession at any point and was handled by third parties at every point from the beginning to the end. So he's saying he walked into this place and didn't touch it, didn't have access to it, etc. So Jace Hall's response. Hall's responded to the evidence in a few different ways. However, they all amount to 3 phases. It doesn't matter. I don't care. They're non-relevant. Cited in Billy Mitchell's affidavit, Jace Hall is quoted specifically saying it doesn't matter. He didn't care. None of that matters. I have better equipment and know more about this than anybody. Okay, interesting. Document images. So this is just like close up of how Billy did his operations and when he achieved the high score at the convention. The GameStop manager basically handling all the arcade equipment and how it was handled after Billy achieved the score. Transcript. Let me be clear. TG is trying to determine if the claims made by the dispute case is valid. The claim is that the known tape performances of Billy Mitchell are actually MAME recordings and not original arcade gameplay. The claim is based on technical assertions. That is what TG is examining closely. Jace Hall, when asked about Billy's board certification. Here's Walter Day, another statement from Walter Day. I'm going to read just point 15 here. At no point throughout the entire process of the board certification did Billy Mitchell have access to the hardware. Every person involved in this process was an unaffiliated third party, such as Sheila, Wayne, and the local GameStop manager. The idea that anything other than legitimate Donkey Kong hardware could have gotten inside the cabinet is fallacious. And here's Sheila stating that. What's up, Wolfie the Ruler? How you doing? Billy Mitchell talking about what was going on that particular day. Todd Rogers. Oh, man. I don't know. I may not have included Todd Rogers in my defense. Let's just say that. Section 10, technical evidence. Scientific expert opinion. So the following sections are the assessments and opinions from expert witness David Race. The first document is his report to the International Video Game Hall of Fame. The second are his answers to a written interview by Electronic Gamers magazine. So in summary, David Race's analysis concluded that the technical analysis could not be considered anything more than inconclusive due to many assumptions about the nature of the recording setups. Nothing I have tested conclusively proves whether the arcade was used or not. Initial assessment. So this is like talking about like the actual recording. And from here on out, it gets very, very technical. The original YouTube tapes and digital copies show potential evidence of editing and frame manipulation. So this is kind of going back to that reassertion of Dwayne Richards. If Dwayne Richards, this Tanner, Jeremy Young, Jace Hall, Greg, or anyone else is willing to take a polygraph test, the same procedure set forth above would be followed. So Robert Childs stated he'd be willing to take a lie detector test. Okay. Interesting. Questions provided to Electronic Gamer magazine. So these are like an interview. I've read through this a little bit. When did you first become aware of Billy's score under any kind of suspicion? Will this predicate the official dispute thread on Twin Galaxy? I believe I first heard about the dispute on around February 3rd, 2018. The official dispute on the Twin Galaxy forums was posted on September 2017, so no, this would not predicate the thread. Okay, I'm not going to read through this. It's very long. And I'll read this about MAME. The continuous claims being made and accusations against Billy are without merit. There is no substance to them. The claim that Billy used MAME has not been proven. The claim that Billy used MAME and deceptively enabled cheats in order to match the arcade has not been proven. The claim that Billy spliced together his game for MAME save states has not been proven. Simply making a claim or comparison isn't the same as proof. Showing that the frames resemble MAME in certain respects doesn't prove that MAME was used. Those who believe Billy cheated will look at the evidence and conclude that he cheated. Not because he was shown to have cheated, but because that is how they wish to interpret the evidence. That's actually a very good historical lesson I teach my students. I teach high school. That's actually a very, very good point there. I actually like that. Aside from this, sorry, I went all history for a second, history nerd. The burden of proof rests on the ones making the claims and the accusations against Billy. I don't think the burden was or has been met. At best, the results would be inconclusive given this is a decision. If a decision is to be made, it should be to retain the score that Twin Galaxies already validated based on a historical record from 2010. Okay, I'm not reading all these little interview questions. You guys can do that. They didn't bother to prove he used MAME. So part 2, the color issue. So again, this is kind of going above my head a little bit. And I've watched numerous videos on this. These claims are false. They have no evidence because nobody of importance ever reported a capture setup to Twin Galaxy. So this is talking about the color difference on the feed, a direct feed versus someone like actually filming it. So this is some very technical stuff. I'm not going to get into that. Figure 1 screenshot of Carlos Pinheiro video referenced on the Twin Galaxy article. Here's an example of the color of Donkey Kong arcade machine produces. So comparing that. Here's some more photos. 2-bit converter producing color to a 90% match of Billy's alleged tapes. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Let's read this final comment. Let me provide an example to explain why trial and error does not provide or prove anything for Jace Hall. Thomas Edison, the developer of the light bulb, achieved electrocution through tests of trial and error. Edison, okay, I'm not reading the rest of that. That's kind of funny. However, no matter how many attempts failed, Edison continued and eventually succeeded. The equivalent in the scenario would be Jace Hall's. Not to compare him to Thomas Edison, he isn't that smart. Wow. Trial and error attempts to produce these MAME-like transitions. However, unlike Edison, Hall simply gave up after a few attempts and claimed it was impossible. Logically fallacy. Here is that trial and error doesn't prove something isn't impossible. It just simply proves that he didn't achieve it. So here's a 3/1/2019 update. Emulators like MAME are more recent technologies that come from the computers or newer hardware. Because MAME comes from a computer, a direct feed recording of MAME would always produce color, and it would do so in a crisp manner. Moreover, other emulators would also always produce color. Also, emulators like MAME or bootlegs would not require a 2-bit converter for a direct feed. So he's saying that this footage, this color, is a product of the direct feed, and if they were doing emulation or doing it through MAME, then it would have brighter colors. That's what they're saying. The color argument, notable piece of evidence, was overlooked regarding Billy Mitchell's score in the Twin Galaxies article. Twin Galaxy explores capturing equipment used in Billy Mitchell's score. Jace Hall explains the color anomalies found in their testing, specifically citing that 2-bit converter has been indicated and it does not output a standard signal. In fact, the signal is so non-standard that many devices will not recognize it fully and only output a black and white or the semi-monochromatic display when it receives it. In other words, JSOL asserts that a 2-bit converter fails to produce a proper color of a Donkey Kong arcade machine. So there's another screenshot. Here's trying to compare what real footage looks like. So external camera recording of Billy Mitchell's score for the International Hall of Fame, announcement 2010. The performance exhibits the same peach-like color exhibited in Pinero's testing of a 2-bit converter and Donkey Kong arcade machine. Okay, the girder finger. Now, this is something I kind of skipped over. The picture showing the girder finger in yellow box. The girder finger is produced in MAME versions and does not depend on MAME's default settings for versions prior to what they're claiming. After spending several weeks claiming that Billy Mitchell played on MAME and specifically saying a version of MAME from that to that, it was discovered that the versions of MAME had not been created yet at the time of Billy Mitchell's performance, which occurred in 2004. Interesting. And was created less than 4 weeks before Billy Mitchell's performance, which occurred in July 2007. In other words, these tapes could not possibly have been Billy Mitchell's unaltered with performances because it was literally impossible for Billy to have played on this version of MAME. It's kind of curious. Huh. That's actually kind of a mind scratcher. Head scratcher, not mind scratcher. So, pictured showing the girder finger in both Billy Mitchell's alleged tapes. Screenshot from the official MAME website showing the MAME version was not created until June 10, 2007. Opposing sides, counter arguments. This seems to be an irrefutable evidence that the tapes have been tampered with. To follow, JSOL asked the participants of the dispute thread to attempt to produce girder fingers and versions of MAME that existed at the time of the performance. Twin Galaxies employee Wes Copeland provides the refresh rate explanation. This is post 1/19/25. Interesting. So here is a screenshot of the manual about stereo monitors and the refresh rate. That's kind of crazy. It's in there. That's nuts. There's a lot of technical stuff here that I don't understand necessarily. I'm just a history teacher. Let's see. Let's move on away from this a little bit. See if there's anything else interesting. Billy Mitchell's scores occurred on hardware, not a computer. For Copeland's claim to be possible, the games would have been played on a computer. All witness testimonies rebuts this conclusively. So he's saying that when Billy's trying to say that all my scores were played live, not on like a computer. After dispute threads, participants failed to reproduce the girder fingers and versions of MAME that existed at the time of the performance. JSOL explained how to tamper with MAME and makes the girder finger appear. I'm not saying that name again. Here is the assertion regarding the evidence. Since Billy Mitchell nor anyone associated with him is capable of time travel, this evidence strongly points towards someone tampering with Billy Mitchell's performances. Some of the stuff is worded so funny. You have to laugh. Moreover, I support this claim with factual evidence. The evidence that supports this is vast, including, and it's going through all this stuff that I kind of talked about. And this is kind of like summary of what they're trying to say, and then the aftermath. This is like supposedly his damages, if you will. These are his damages to what happened to his career, what happened to him, what happened to his character. And I'm going to tell you that people went on the attack. People wanted blood. People wanted to defame him, make fun of him. Even to this day, like I said, I posted a video this past spring about Billy. And I kind of did a year update video. What's Billy been up to? And I swear, every other comment was like that cheater, everything. I mean, just so much hate. And I don't hate the guy. I actually think the guy's pretty nice. I've met him in person, and I really, I really like Walter Day. Even to this day, I think he's the nicest guy. And but aside from that, you can't. People were actually attacking the person, okay, not the record, not what they did, personally. And I actually removed that. I removed the records. I removed if there was cheating involved. If there wasn't, I removed that. And that they're people. People get attacked. People, I don't know. He's a public figure, though. I get it. I understand that. First person to achieve a perfect score in Pac-Man, and I understand that. But at the same token, they're people. They're people, and I don't know. I recently watched, and I didn't really want to talk about this too much. Pro Jared's videos, his responses, and just kind of looking at the human side of things a little bit more, because we can point fingers all day long, and we can point fingers at these people and make accusations, and when we hear these accusations, there's the whole story is not totally told 100%, and that sometimes can be an issue. That can be a problem, and we could put people down very easily in this society. We want to put people down. We want to find those people and make an example of them. We want to cast that stone when we might have issues ourselves. We might be going through hell ourselves. If you are going through something, maybe you've done something despicable to your family. Who knows? I mean, we're all guilty of something. But these public figures, I understand it. I get it. I really do. They are public figures. They are public figures that are in the public eye. And when something big happens, when something controversial happens, when something bad happens, they're going to be ridiculed. They're going to be humiliated. I mean, it's relentless. With Pro Jared, I mean, I'm not taking up for him or anything. I don't really have an opinion about him, other than I really don't like his content. I didn't like his content before, but people just wanted blood. So yeah, let's go through this a little bit. In the summer of 2018, David Race's research uncovered an interesting frame capture from a Donkey Kong arcade machine. So I want more on the aftermath. This is talking about more screen captures and stuff. Donkey Kong Jr. I'm not going to get into this. I looked at this, and my Lord have mercy. I tried to decipher it. I've had a long day, too. That kind of thing. And I'm like, good Lord have mercy. How much of this do I need to dissect and look at? Okay, so that you guys can look at the Donkey Kong Jr. stuff on your own, but there are some interesting points and arguments that Billy brings up and Billy has presented. Do I think that he cheated still? I don't know now. I mean, I'm not gonna recant what I said, but I just don't know. I don't have an answer yet. I'm gonna have to look through the original evidence again. I'm gonna have to look through what Twin Galaxies came out with. Again, it's been a little while since I've looked at those accusations and those claims and the reasons why they did the blame or the ban and the removal of the records. So I will go back and study that, look at those claims. And I know Billy has addressed a lot of them in here, and he went after a lot of the big ones. And his claims, basically he's saying that the footage that was tested, that was looked at by Twin Galaxies, was faked, was doctored, not by him, by someone else. And this particular person had a goal in mind. to target Billy Mitchell. And Billy always did a live, an actual record live in person. That's another claim that Billy's saying. And all the equipment, all the arcade cabinets were fully certified and fully tested. That's what he's saying. And he's also saying that Jace Hall didn't give him a chance, saying that Jace Hall didn't want to hear it. Jace Hall didn't want to have anything to do with Billy, and Jace Hall didn't want to hear anything from Billy's camp and Billy's side of the story. I'm not taking a side here. I am not. This is a time when I'm actually kind of going in the middle, and I don't know. I mean, I stated it as fact that Billy was a cheater. Billy was caught red-handed. If you go back and watch some of my videos, I talk about that. You know, like Steve Wiebe. One thing that I actually would really enjoy hearing is Steve Wiebe's side of things, how he's doing and what's going on in his realm. I know he's a teacher, but it's just bizarre that this is out there. And Billy always claims, so after a month after the accusations and the ban and the removal of the records, Billy actually said, I have a plan, I have evidence, I'm going to release it. Well, he's released it. Over a year later, in a few months here, he's released it. And some of it's actually making me think about a few things. Some of it's actually kind of humorous. And some of the sources, are they 100% credible? I don't know. The inclusion of Todd Rogers in there, that's not going to help your case. So again, I'm a person who stands on evidence. So if you have a claim, you have to have credible evidence. You have to have the evidence. You have to have the proof. You have to have that to back up what you're saying, what you claim, and your sources. That's the most important thing when it comes down to history and facts. And also, facts don't care about your feelings. That's a firm thing that I stand on. And what's factual here? What's actual, like, muddied up here? What's a lie? That's hard to determine. A lot of this stuff is eyewitness accounts, and you know, this happened on this day, and I saw this happen with my own eyes, that kind of thing. So it's their eyewitness versus Twin Galaxy eyewitness accounts and all this mudslinging going on. It almost kind of reminds me of politics. Okay, guys, well, that's going to be a wrap for me today. I wanted to cover this. I didn't want to do an edited video. Yeah, it's been interesting. This has been an interesting story that I've covered now since past April. No, 2 Aprils ago now. And 2018, and it's something I will continue to watch and see. I'm actually hoping that they do a King of Kong 2. I think that would actually be awesome if they did that. Alright, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want kind of more things like this. I'll try to refine the process a little bit. If I intend to do some like live coverage of some like really current events, I am going to start a podcast with myself, just a podcast with me, and then I'm also going to do a podcast with Stevie and Bubby, which will be more of a fun one. When I do it, it's going to be when I cover some heavy, serious topics like this, and I might take a podcast and just dump and share my thoughts on a particular topic, just one topic or a few topics. Okay, guys, well, I really appreciate you watching, and take it easy, guys.